for our next one here, we're going to talk about Jared Goff's new fancy ass contract, which he signed for $212 million, which includes a record $73 million signing bonus, which is absolutely nuts. I feel like we've been hearing about a contract extension potentially coming for the last little bit for Jared Goff. I wasn't too surprised to see the Lions wanting to bring him back in this spot, but seeing how much he got was a little shocking to me, at least from my perspective as someone who pretty much watched the headline go in and pretty kind of just went, wow, holy smokes. I did not think he'd be getting that big of a bonus. But I'm not sure what you think about it, Caleb, because at least for me, that was my original reaction, because holy.
I mean, I had the same reaction. I think I look at it I think looking at it in the context of the last few years and looking at it in the context of the Matthew Stafford trade makes it even more interesting. Because looking at that trade, Jared Goff was mostly just a throw-in to get rid of the terrible
Oh, yeah.
contract he signed with the Rams, where he was not. Obviously, the Rams trade for Matthew Stafford because they don't believe they can win with Jared Goff, and they'd already given them this massive contract. And basically, the Lions took Jared Goff just to get more back in the trade because they're taking on his contract. Like he was a negative asset at that point. Like he
Yeah.
wasn't really part of that trade in terms of, oh, we're trading one for one. It was the fact that they were getting rid of him. And I just remember like
Well, he
even
was a joke as
because
well.
that was when I obviously, yeah, he was a total joke at that point where um I remember like even watching there's a Seahawks Rams playoff game that the Seahawks ended up losing, of course they did. But Jared Goff got injured, and I think I got more scared of the Rams at that point, where I was like, "Oh well, that I think we're actually more screwed now that he's out of the game." But he's totally revitalized his career in Detroit, and I don't know. I was also, I mean, I've been a big Jared Goff hater, anyways. I thought he was basically created by the Sean McVay system, but he's done really well. He's obviously led the Lions to first playoff win since 1990, whatever. He's done fantastic, and it's gone from the conversation being when are the Lions gonna draft a rookie quarterback to replace Jared Goff, from the conversation
It's
now
true.
being, well, you have to extend him because he's given you
Yeah.
every reason to.
No, absolutely. I agree with that. Because I do remember that being the conversation, just in the fact that I remember, I don't know if it was that first off season or this one after, there was a conversation about Detroit maybe not being smart in not taking a quarterback. And now we're looking at it and imagine if they did take a quarterback. It's almost that type of thing where the situation they'd be in now, where Jared Goff is giving you pretty much no reason to want to get rid of him if this contract shows you anything. He's only 29 and he's got plenty of time. I mean, it'd be a very, very odd situation to look at if they did have a young guy sitting behind Goff now. It's obviously a good thing that the Lions were able to buy into him very, very early. Clearly, they saw something that we didn't, and now it's looking like more than ever that clearly they saw something that in that maybe even in that first trade that we all didn't. And Jared Goff had his moments in LA. Whether you think that was because of the system or not doesn't matter clearly anymore because he ended up getting another big contract, which none of us in 1,000 years would have thought he would have gotten when we were watching that last, especially that last season in LA was pretty incredible to watch, at least for me, because he was not good. He was not good.
Like whether they, I don't know. Like it's tough to say. I doubt that this was part of their plan. You say because you said in terms of like maybe this was they saw something in the cards from the start. I'd be pretty surprised if they did. I mean, obviously they did trust him to start up until this point, but I really did think he was just a bridge because the conversation kept being how
Oh, and
good
I
are
did
the
too.
Lions going to
Yeah,
be once they get a quarterback. And he just kept playing like he was at first he just played good enough to keep the job and not get another quarterback, and they just kept getting better and better. Um, if we do want to talk about the money, I think that is something that's really interesting where I think so. He's getting paid until this is probably the last big contract he'll get.
yeah,
He's getting paid until he'll be a
33.
free agent when he's 35. 35.
35.
Because he's currently this upcoming
Oh,
year
it's an
will be 30.
extension. That's right. Yeah. No, that's my bad.
Yeah, so he'll be 35 by the time he's a free agent. I don't know if this is necessarily accurate or not, but Spot Track has the cap hits by year. It's very interesting how they've spread this out, because they've got cap hit of 27 million this upcoming year. Then it balloons to 32. Then it goes all the way up to a $69 million cap hit in 2026.
Whoa.
I can't imagine that's going to stay the same.
Yeah.
54 million the next year, then the final year of the deal, 61 million, which
Jeez.
I maybe that tries to account for the cap going up. I'm sure they'll restructure the deal. Like I just
Yeah,
can't
you
see
gotta
how that
think,
cap number
right?
stays the same,
Holy. Yeah, that is
because I don't
insane.
think, yeah.
That is
Um,
wild.
he's
Yeah.
getting paid like he's a top 10 quarterback in the league, and I do think it's kind of interesting to say like he obviously deserved an extension, but to what point did the Lions overpay?
Yeah. No, absolutely. That is insane. I can't get over that. Why 69 million? Is anybody even close to that on any contract? Like, is there any contracts like
Yeah,
I know I don't even yeah, I don't even
you
know where
have
to
to
go
be,
from
yeah,
that.
you do have to take that number with a grain of salt because it is 3 years out and a lot can change. Like that's why I
True.
say like they will
Yeah,
probably
no.
restructure. I doubt we'd ever see that hit the books, but that's
Yeah.
just that is strange to see that high.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I'll throw it up here just so that the people can see as well. But like
Um,
69 million. What the actual hell?
yeah,
That is insane. It does fall off after that as
it's
well,
a
but even
lot of money.
54, 61,
Um,
that is bonkers. But yeah, no, this entire cap sheet is just bonkers to look at as well. Just in the fact that I it doesn't even make sense to my brain how that ends up working out with him making 27, 32, and then yeah, let's just jump to 69 million and then we'll jump back down. I don't remember the last time I would have seen a contract like that where it's instead of working its way up or even just working its way down, maybe it's like a mountain. It's just like, oh, we're
yeah.
taking a leisure walk through the park and Everest, and then we'll make our way back down over here. Like that's what this makes me think.
Yeah, seriously. And if we want to look at this, even just taking away that weird random $70 million cap number, if we just want to look at this in terms of average value per year, um, Jared Goff is currently the second highest paid quarterback in the NFL, only behind Joe Burrow. Again,
Bonkers.
as according to sportingnews.com. Has Joe Burrow has an average annual value of 55 million, whereas Jared Goff is now at 53. So that is insane. You don't think Jared Goff's going to be the guy who's going to reset the market, but I guess he is. And you maybe
Yeah.
even I think you can take this two ways. I think you can say the Lions are A, smart for getting ahead of quarterback deals such as Dak Prescott, Jordan Love, a bunch of these other guys that are going to have huge contracts coming up where they just keep pushing the market up further and further. Because now the Cowboys are kind of screwed,
Yeah.
because they've
Oh
been
my
pushing
god.
off this Dak Prescott extension to
That
say,
Dak
well,
deal's
we're not
gonna be
going to do it now, we're
insane.
not going to do it now. Dak is going to be like, well, I've been better than Jared Goff. Look at this, and this, which you
Yeah,
can
I was
probably
about to
point
say.
to. And they're going to have to pay him more than Jared Goff. And that's
Yeah.
just going to keep happening for all these quarterbacks. Jordan Love is going to be like, I played like a top 5 quarterback in the end of last year and then probably continuing into this year. I deserve more than Jared Goff. And it's just going to keep going up to where these like middle tier quarterbacks are going to get
It's
paid
gonna
even
be
more than. It does kind of reset the market
the
in that
whole
way.
the whole
So I guess
NFL
they're
is just gonna
good.
be like, look at what Jared Goff's making. Look at that asshole. Give me
Yeah,
his money.
seriously. I don't know. This isn't. I also just want to reiterate before we get all the people in the comments saying, "Wow, you're such Lions haters." Try being not biased next time or whatever. Um, we're not. This is not an insult to Jared Goff.
No.
Jared Goff has played fantastically, and he deserved a huge contract. to the point where it's this huge is our question, I guess. But he
Yeah.
definitely deserved a contract that was up there.
No, absolutely. He
This is
deserves
just
to
a bit
be
of a
get
question
brought back.
for him to get paid up there. He's getting paid more than Mahomes per in
Yeah.
like per year
I
value.
was gonna say as well though. I feel like Mahomes is a weird one to compare it to, just in the fact that he signed such a long deal that I think we all kind of knew that he'd fall down the leaderboard of highest paid quarterbacks. Excuse me, at some point. And I so that one's not surprising to me. To see Jared Goff number 2 anyway is bonkers. Like he is. Are you telling me Jared Goff is $2 million off of Joe Burrows? No.
Yeah.
No, he is not. Like he should not be that high. But this is the world we live in. Jared Goff just reset the quarterback market. Dak Prescott, $60 million contract. It's coming.
Yeah. Because that is the like devil's advocate side of it, to where you say this is actually smart by Detroit to say, yeah, Dak Prescott 60 million incoming because it was only going to get more expensive from here, right?
Yeah.
All of the smart teams, particularly like teams like the Eagles, continue to contend because they re-sign their guys early. You saw it with, I believe they just got like Devontae Smith done on a contract, and that was way before they needed to. But you get him at cheaper rates at that point because contracts just keep going up and up. You saw the Lions do the same thing with Penei Sewell and
Yep.
Amon-Ra St. Brown, where they both give both of them big extensions, and I thought those were super smart moves. And I guess they want to lock up their quarterback for the foreseeable future. Um, so I guess in that regard, because if you don't have a quarterback, you don't have a contending team. That's kind of the arithmetic you have to do there. Like they were never going to lose out on Jared Goff. They always had to have him in there to continue to contend. Because with how good the rest of the roster is, you're never going to be bad enough to get a young quarterback in the draft. If you're going to have to pay someone else in free agency, it's kind of bringing in the devil you don't know for probably even more money than you would have had to pay Jared Goff.
Yeah.
It is kind of a no right move situation. You overpay for a quarterback because you have to overpay for a quarterback. So I get, in that sense, it makes sense in my head.
What we've seen,
but it is still ludicrous.
Yeah, and what we've seen is Jared Goff is good enough to lead you there. I think he is good enough to potentially, if the Lions get good enough, and maybe this team is the one to do it. I know I was very high on the Lions last year. He is good enough to lead them far, if not to the Super Bowl. And there's no question on that. But he is just not that top level quarterback, which is why it hurts to pay him that kind of money. But like you pointed out, you don't got a choice. You don't got a choice. This is what you settled on. This is the guy. He came to a team that had no expectations for him. He came in to pretty much be that bridge guy with an expectation that he would get replaced in 2 to 3 years. And he went, no, this is my spot now. And he made it his home. And now he pretty much forced their hand, at least in that sense. This is Jared Goff's team now, whether the Detroit Lions like it or not. And it's...
Yeah.
And for them, I don't know if it's necessarily a bad thing. I think that there are a lot of quarterbacks that would be better on this team than Jared Goff, for example, as someone who doesn't necessarily think Goff is the most talented quarterback on the planet. And that's not necessarily me hating on him. He's obviously made what he has work. But to say that he is as good as a lot of the guys that he's going to get compared to now with that contract would be quite a stretch, I think, to say the least. So, at least to me, when I look at it, I don't necessarily like it. But you don't have a choice, right? I guess that's where I'm going to fall on it. It makes me bite my lip a little bit, just in the fact of like, ooh, that is a pretty penny for Jared Goff. But you know what? Good for him.
Good for him. And I think that's a good place to wrap it up. Honestly, it's just to say good for him, because at the end of the day, it was a quarterback that was basically like, again, was tossed away as trash in a trade that wasn't about him. And I think you could, I don't know if I'd go this far, but I think you could arguably say that the Lions might have gotten the better quarterback out of it long term, right?
Yeah,
because they'll get
long term.
They'll get a few more. they'll get a few more years out of him, I think, is the big thing. I don't think the Rams would take that back, considering they won a Super
God, no.
Bowl because of the
And
trade.
that's what I was gonna say. You
And
really need to
Matthew Stafford is
stick long term in there because Stafford
yeah,
was pretty good in that
but
first season. But past that, yes, I agree
and
with
Stafford's continued to be good, barring injuries. Stafford's
you.
continued to be
Sure.
good, barring
Yeah.
injuries. We just don't know he's going to be that. Obviously, Stafford drafted him like 8 years before Goff or something. You're going to get more longevity out of Goff. It's one of those trades I don't think either
Oh,
team would
really?
take it back.
No.
Um, and but I do think the Lions got a lot from it. Even just in Goff, not accounting everything else they got in that. So props to Jared Goff for beating the odds and saying, I'm worth this through his play. And
Yeah.
even if we do think it's a little bit overinflated of a contract, like, I'm not going to be one to poo-poo his party as I have
Yeah.
been kind of in the past. Congrats, Jared Goff. Like, you earned this to an extent.
Yeah. Thank
Is
you
what
for
I'll
not
say.
doing it on the Rams.
Yes, absolutely. Oh my God.